this is Mark Wharton. Welcome to another episode, exciting episode today of What Were They Thinking? And hey, before we get started, I just wanted to throw out this little disclaimer here. The whole idea, I'm going to say this every time because I want to make sure nobody gets confused. The whole idea of this segment is not to embarrass anybody or to call anybody out or to make fun of anybody at all. All we're really trying to do is be better at design, right? And I know as an engineer, you never get a chance to come back and look at the results of your design, later on, after a year, 2 years, 3 years, or whatever. And as someone that's constructing ponds or a dirt work operator or general contractor, it's also rare that you come back and kind of look at it, you move on to the next thing. So what we're trying to do here is kind of bring everybody back to these designs and take a look and see if, was it the design that's flawed, or was it the execution? So the construction of the project that was flawed. Or maybe it's a maintenance issue. Today, actually, we're not calling out any engineers. We're not calling out anybody that's doing any construction. This is really a maintenance issue. So I get often asked the question, why do I have to, put seed, fertilizer, mow my detention pond? This is just a hole in the ground that sucks up all my money. If I have to mow it and fertilize it and seed it and take care of it. But the reality is because it's a detention pond, you have to take care of these things or they're just going to fall apart, and then it's going to cost you money in the long run. And so today what I'm talking about is this detention pond here. And what we're doing is we're going to compare two detention ponds that happen to be right next to each other, which is really kind of cool for us and kind of unique. If you take a look down at this very end here, you can see this trash cage. That lets us know that this detention pond is also a dual purpose pond. It serves also as a stormwater quality feature. What that means is that every year you've got to take pictures of this, send them into Harris County, and the pond has to look in good condition. As you can see, the sidewalls of this pond have fallen apart. There is very little, if any, vegetation on these slopes. And you might be wondering, well, why is that? I'm going to give you a great example of it next door to this. We're going to in a few minutes we're going to pan over and show you another pond that is right next to this pond. The difference is not in the dirt. It'd be hard to say that the dirt is different in this pond versus the one that's right next door. As you can see, to my left, this is a Harris County flood control pond. We're going to go over and look at that in a minute, but let's focus back on this pond. So what we're seeing here is a lot of erosion, a lack of vegetation, and you may be wondering why this is, because the rest of the pond looks pretty well vegetated. Everything looks okay. Well, the reality is that on the flat bottom, you get a lot of nutrients. Nothing really moves too much as far as nutrients on the bottom of a detention pond. What you do get is you get the nutrients that if anybody did put anything on the slopes, some of them ran off to the bottom. In this case, I don't see a whole lot of growth on the bottom anyway. It's okay, but it's not great. But it's flat ground. Remember that nothing's really moving too much as far as food or nutrients on the flat part of the pond. It's the slopes that are of concern. And so what we're seeing here is just simply a lack of maintenance. Yeah, they're mowing the pond, but they're not putting any fertilizer on it. They're not overseeding it. And what's happened is that you've lost most of the sediment. And what you're left with, here I'm going to show you, and what you're left with is really just this kind of rocky material that I see often in Houston. When the sand goes away and the clay kind of goes away, you just get these little rocky pebbles. Nothing's going to grow on this. It might have been okay during construction, but at this point they've lost just about all the organic material off this pond. You can see down this like lighter sand layer at the bottom. That used to be on the slope and now it's on the bottom. So fixing this, not terribly easy, because at this point you really need to introduce some topsoil, some organics to this to be able to repair it properly. Unfortunately, I know the slope looks like it's pretty flat, as far as there's no rills in it, there's no real erosion going on except for maybe in a couple little spots. But the only way to really get some organics into it is to turn it into it. And so you really have to regrade this slope, get organics in it, and then stabilize it. This was probably, I would say, I'd bet my paycheck on it that this pond was stabilized with paper hydromulch. Nobody ever used any kind of a tackifiers or any kind of products that were designed for slope stabilization, this owner probably decided to go with the cheapest thing they could find. So let me take you now over here and compare this pond to a pond that was dug out. Probably this other pond is probably 2 years older. It was in conjunction with a roadway expansion, and so this is a county pond. It's Harris County's. They own this pond, and the protocols for Harris County ponds are a little different. If you're a private owner, obviously you can do whatever you want, right? But for Harris County pond, they specify that they want these things fertilized and overseeded twice a year. So in the spring and in the fall, you add, in the spring obviously you're going to use Bermuda grass and a triple 13 fertilizer. In the fall you're going to use rye and a triple 13. Now we got a little bit of erosion here, not too much, but if you look down the pond in general, you'll see that the slopes are stable. There's plenty of grass growing here. There's some weeds growing here. I see some native wildflowers, which is really cool. But this pond has been maintained. It's rained recently, so we have some water in the bottom of the pond. Not a big deal. I know it looks like it's just a swale or a ditch, but it really is a detention basin that the Harris County Flood Control maintains. Again, the difference is it's not in the dirt. This is the same dirt that we have next door. But what we are seeing is the results of maintenance, of regular maintenance. And like I said, I'm just talking about twice a year fertilizing and overseeding, and making sure that initially, that's kind of important, that initially when you first dig a pond or when you first dig a swale, that you stabilize it properly at the beginning, meaning that you have grasses growing on the entire slope. And again, if you don't do that, you're really just chasing your tail, trying to get it repaired. It's easier, cheaper to just do it this way at the beginning. I know I say cheaper, but what I mean by that is that you are going to spend a little more up front, but you're going to alleviate yourself of any maintenance burdens in the long run. So this makes more sense. It's the reason the county does it this way. The majority of our customers agree to this. We're not huge fans of fall overseeding with rye. Rye has a tendency to strip a lot of nutrients out of the soil. So if we can get away with it, if we can not use rye in the fall because there's enough vegetation, like this pond right here, I wouldn't even bother vegetating this in the fall. I definitely put some Bermuda on the spring just to give it a little charge, some extra grass, but there's no real reason if the pond is stabilized to add rye. Now the pond behind us, the one that we just looked at, that one, they should have, it probably looked like that after the first season. And so if they would have just added, if they built the pond in the summertime, say, and they used Bermuda, in the fall, definitely put some rye in there and fertilize it. And the rye is going to come up and it'll do great and it'll look like a big, billow, a field of hay is what it'll really look like. But at the first sign of spring, first heat, you got to cut that down. You got to cut it really flat. You got to scalp it so that the Bermuda has a chance to sprig and not get shadowed by the blades of the rye. So in this case, it really just needs to be repaired. That's really up to the owner, but ultimately it's not, because what will happen is this owner's going to go to re-permit this pond, and the county eventually they'll reject the permit and they'll force them to do some repairs. If you got a pond that looks like this, feel free to give us a call. We're happy to come out and take a look at it and give you all the advice that you need. We'll tell you how to do it if you want to do it yourself. If you want us to take care of it, we can take care of it for you. So yeah, give us a call if you need anything. You want to take a look at your pond. You have another kind of stormwater quality feature. We specialize in all types of stormwater quality. So yeah, feel free to hit us up on the web, www.swpgrp.com, or give us a call. Thanks.